My name is Merle Frog. I'm 68 years old. And for the past 4 years, I've lived like a ghost in the very house my husband and I bought together decades ago. Every evening, around 6 o'clock, the house fills with voices that aren't mine demands. Footsteps, slammed doors, and the high-pitched chatter of children. But when the noise dies down, all that remains is the echo of a woman no one really sees anymore. I wasn't always invisible. Once, I was a wife, a mother, a homemaker. I lived with Lloyd, my husband of 45 years. We had our rhythms, our rituals. He worked, I kept the house in order. He'd always say, "A man provides, a woman protects the home," and so I did faithfully, lovingly, for decades, until one night, Lloyd took a bite of his favorite apple pie, smiled, and then he choked. Just like that. He was gone. Right there at the dinner table. I still see his face when I close my eyes. The funeral was a blur. Terrence came with his wife, Nola. Wanda came with her husband, Pierce, and their 3 kids. They gave hugs, said all the right things, promised they'd be there for me. But 1 week later, the house was empty. I wandered from room to room, talking out loud just to hear some kind of noise. Then, Terrence called. He had a great idea. He said his family would move in with me temporarily, just until they saved enough for a down payment on their own place. It sounded comforting, even hopeful. A month later, Wanda called with her own dilemma landlord issues. Could they stay too? Of course. I said yes. What could be better than a house full of family? But temporary turned into a year? Then 2. Then 4. And slowly, the house became something else, no longer mine, but theirs. My rules disappeared. My voice faded. And I became a background character in the story of my own life. Each morning I wake up before anyone else to cook breakfast, tidy up, and prepare the house for another day of chaos. No one asks me to, they just expect it. Like gravity. Like old wallpaper. Familiar but unnoticed. I used to think I was being helpful. Now I'm not so sure. Because somehow, without anyone ever saying it out loud, I stopped being a person. I became grandma. I became mom. I became the help. And no one even noticed the day I stopped looking in the mirror. My days follow a rhythm that I never chose. I wake up before the sun rises, shuffle to the kitchen, and start breakfast for 8 people who treat the food as expected, not appreciated. No one says, "Thanks, Mom," or "Thanks, Grandma." They just eat, or complain, or both. This morning, as I stepped out of the shower, still dripping, Greer banged on the bathroom door. "Grandma, are you in there again? I need to do my hair. I'm late." "I'll be out in just a sec." "Dear," I said gently, wrapping myself in a towel. She huffed. "You always say that. But you take forever." 10 minutes. That's all I'd taken. But somehow, I was the inconvenience. Not the 13-year-old who spends an hour straightening her hair every morning. In my bedroom. The only space left that's technically mine. Privacy is just a memory. Willow, age 10, walks in without knocking, borrowing my brushes and scarves like I'm a communal closet. Lawrence, the youngest, treats my room like a jungle gym, hiding under the bed or jumping into the laundry pile like it's a pit of leaves. I get dressed in silence, listening to the morning stampede below. The kitchen sounds like a cafeteria, I step downstairs. Pour cereal for Willow. Eggs for Pierce. Toast for Terrence. No one looks up. Mom, do you have $20 until payday? Terrence appears in his call center uniform. Checking his phone. I reach for my purse without hesitation. Of course. Dear. He kisses my cheek and snatches a piece of toast. You're the best. Then he's gone. Nola breezes in next, adjusting her blouse as she walks. Can you pick up the kids today? I've got overtime. She doesn't wait for my answer. Wanda can't. She has a client meeting? I cancel my coffee date with Letty. Again. Greer complains her closet is empty. It's not. Willow doesn't want oatmeal. She wants chocolate cereal. Lawrence knocks over his juice. Doesn't apologize. Grandma will clean it up. He shrugs. Wanda enters last. Perfect hair. Perfect makeup. Zero warmth. Don't wait up. We'll eat out, she says. Buttering toast. Half an hour later. The house is a mess. They're all gone. And I'm left with sticky counters, crumpled napkins, and half-eaten bowls of food. I clean it all. Slowly. Methodically. And then I head to work. At the hardware store. Mr. Greenwood greets me with a smile. He doesn't know that I cry some nights. He doesn't know this job. This cashier's apron is the only place I feel like someone might see me. Letty calls during my lunch break. Merle, you're letting them take advantage of you. What am I supposed to do? They're my family. Family's love. They don't use. I tell her I have to go. But I don't. I just don't want to admit that she's right. The envelope was sitting on the small table by the front door, half buried under a pile of junk mail. I almost missed it, but when I opened it, the world tilted. Sen. Tsibe. A utility bill. Electricity. Water. Gas all overdue. The bold red lettering warned of immediate shutoff if not paid within 3 days. I reread it again and again, thinking there had to be a mistake. But it wasn't a mistake. 3 months ago, Terrence had offered to take care of the utility bills. You've got enough on your plate. Mom, let me handle it for a while, he'd said. I gave him the money. Trusted him. He must have forgotten. Or spent it. Or maybe he never intended to pay at all. I sat down. Hard. Clutching the paper as if squeezing it could make it disappear. My savings, every dollar I'd carefully stashed away over the past 4 years. Working at the hardware store amounted to $3. 826. 43. That was supposed to be for roof repairs. A new washer. Maybe. Just maybe. A little trip with Letty one day. But that day would never come. The next morning, I stood outside the bank, 10 minutes before it opened. Savings book in hand. Stomach in knots. The young teller, Caleb, looked concerned when I asked to withdraw the full amount in cash. Are you sure? Mrs. Frog, yes. Would you like to speak with someone about financial assistance? No. I just need my money. With trembling fingers, I stuffed the envelope of cash into my purse and drove straight to the utility office. The woman behind the counter didn't blink when I slid the bills across. She handed me a receipt and said, "Your account is now paid in full." I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt hollow. Back in the car, I stared out the windshield and thought, why me? Why do I have to pay for their long showers? Their computers, running all night. Their heat blasting while they lounge in pajamas. Why am I the only one who sacrifices at work that afternoon? I made 2 errors at the register. Mr. Greenwood raised an eyebrow. You okay? Merrill didn't sleep much. I lied. Take a break. He offered. Thanks. I'm fine. During lunch, Letty called. I wanted to tell her everything. About the bill. About the savings. About the ache in my chest that had nothing to do with money. But I couldn't. Saying it out loud would make it real. Later, I picked up the kids from school. Greer wanted to go to the mall. Willow wanted ice cream. Lawrence just whined. I drove them. Like always. I paid. Like always. That night, Pierce blasted the television and Terrence asked what was for dinner. I cooked. They complained. And I stood in the kitchen. Alone again. Wondering when my life had stopped being mine. The next morning, I called Letty. I didn't want to burden her. I'd already canceled our last 2 meetups, but I needed someone. She suggested we meet at Morning Dew Cafe. A quiet little place with soft jazz and blueberry muffins that taste like love. I arrived late. Weary. Worn out. And trying to hold myself together. Letty was already at our usual corner table by the window, wrapped in one of her colorful scarves and holding 2 coffees. You look terrible, she said. Blunt as ever. Sit. Talk. I didn't mean to cry. But as soon as I sat down, the tears came. Quiet at first, then harder. Letty passed me a napkin and ordered us muffins without asking. Tell me everything, she said. And I did. I told her about the bill. About the savings I had to drain. About Terrence's promise and his silence. About how Wanda wanted me to watch the kids again. Because of her anniversary dinner. About how they wanted to move me into a retirement home like I was some old photo to be stored away. Letty was silent for a long time. Then she said, Your children are grown parasites. Merle. I'm sorry. But they are. I flinched. They weren't always like this. No. But they are now. And you know why? Because you let them. I tried to object. They're my kids. What was I supposed to do? Kick them out? No. Letty said, You were supposed to set boundaries. You were supposed to say, This is my home. I deserve respect. But instead, you let them treat you like staff. I took a sip of coffee, letting her words sink in. What should I do? I whispered. First, Letty said, reaching into her bag. You call this man. She handed me a napkin with a name and number scribbled on it. Hadley Drummond. Is a lawyer. Helped my niece with something similar. I can't afford a lawyer. The first consultation's free. You don't have to sue anyone. Merle. Just find out your rights. I folded the napkin slowly, like it was dynamite. Letty, what if they hate me? Then they never really loved you the way a child should love a parent. She said, Real love includes respect. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're not alone. Merle. My guest room is always open, but more importantly, you have the right to stand up for yourself. For the first time in a long time, I felt something shift. Just a little. Like a window cracking open in a stale room. Maybe I wasn't as powerless as I thought. Maybe it was time to stop surviving and start living. Maybe. Just maybe. I was ready to fight for myself. The napkin with Hadley Drummond's name stayed on my nightstand for 2 full days. Every time I looked at it, my heart thudded with fear and maybe something else too, anticipation. Finally, on a gray Thursday morning, I dialed the number before I could lose my nerve. Drummond Law Office. How can I help you? Said a pleasant voice. My name is Merle Frog. I need to speak with Mr. Drummond about a family issue. Hold one moment. Moments later, a calm male voice came on the line. Mrs. Frog, I understand you'd like to discuss a family housing matter. Yes. It's complicated. He offered me an appointment that very afternoon. I almost said no. Almost cancelled. But edit famo fura PM. I stood in front of a small brick office on Main Street. Heart pounding. Mr. Drummond was about 55, with salt and pepper hair and kind but focused eyes. He listened as I told him everything about Lloyd's death. About Terrence and Wanda moving in temporarily. About the bills. The chores. The expectations. The invisibility. When I finished, he asked, "Is the home in your name?" Yes. It was in both mine and Lloyd's. After he passed, everything transferred to me. And do your children pay rent? No. Any written agreement of tenancy? None. He closed his notebook slowly. Then from a legal standpoint, you have the right to serve them with a 30-day notice to vacate. They are informal occupants without a lease. It hit me like cold water. Simple. Clear. Terrifying. But they're my children. I said quietly, "And you're their mother." He replied, "One who deserves dignity and peace. This isn't eviction out of spite. It's reclaiming your space." I stared at the sample eviction. Notice he handed me dry legal language. But the weight of it made my hands tremble. What if I change my mind? You can. Anytime. Nothing here is final until you want it to be. I left his office with the papers in my purse and a storm inside my chest. I wasn't ready to hand them out, not yet. But just having them felt like armor? That evening, I cooked dinner like always. They came. They ate. They scrolled through phones. I barely tasted my own food. I kept glancing toward the living room where I had hidden the notice beneath a stack of newspapers. Later that night, after the house quieted and the dishes were washed, I sat on my bed staring at the folded pages. For the first time in years, I felt the beginning of something new. Something bold. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe the next day. But soon, I would do what needed to be done. Because I was done being invisible, and I was finally ready to be seen. The next evening, I decided it was time. Time to hand them the truth wrapped in legal language. I waited until everyone was seated at the dinner table. Terrence, Nola, Wanda, Pierce, and the kids. I'd made chicken stew. Again. They talked about school, work, traffic, a new television show. No one asked how my day had been. When the plates were nearly empty, I cleared my throat. "I need to talk to all of you," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. Terrence paused mid-chew. Wanda looked up, mildly annoyed. "Is something wrong?" I got up, walked into the living room, and returned with 4 folded sheets of paper. I placed them in front of each adult. "What's this?" Terrence asked, frowning as he unfolded his copy. "It's a formal notice," I said. "You have 30 days to find another place to live." Silence. "You're evicting us," Wanda asked, voice rising. "Mom, this is a joke." "Right. No," I said quietly but clearly. "It's not." "Is this because of that retirement home conversation?" Nola chimed in. "You're taking it way too personally." I looked at her evenly. "You suggested I leave my own home so you could stay in it more comfortably. That's not care. That's convenience." Terrence threw down the paper. "This is ridiculous. You're kicking your own kids out on the street. You are adults with incomes." I said, holding my ground. "You can rent. You can buy. You're capable." This is your solution, Wanda said, her eyes wide with disbelief. To throw us out, my solution, I replied, is to reclaim my home, my peace, and my dignity. This is long overdue, Pierce muttered. You didn't even warn us. I turned to him. Neither did you, when you turned my kitchen into a break room and my bedroom into a playground for your kids. Lawrence looked confused. Willow looked sad. Greer just stared, arms crossed. Wanda tried again. What about the children? Don't you care? I love them, I said, looking directly at Willow. But love isn't servitude. And I won't let them grow up thinking it is. Terrence stood up, furious. You'll regret this. I already regret not doing it sooner, I said calmly. Wanda's voice cracked. You'll be alone. Better to be alone than invisible, I whispered. No one said another word. They left the table one by one. Non lasciatemi parlare. Pierce grabbed his phone. Terrence stormed off. Wanda Lingel. Then shook her head and disappeared upstairs. I sat alone, surrounded by dishes and silence. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I felt strong. And the clock ticked toward freedom. The house was tense the next morning. No one spoke much. They were stunned, confused, angry. But I didn't waver. Not anymore. By noon, I'd made the final calls. First to Letty. Are you sure you want to do this? She asked. I've never been more sure of anything, I said. Next, I called Mr. Drummond. Can you come by today? I'll bring the final documents. He confirmed. And then, a call to Brooke Holloway, a realtor I knew from town. I need a favor. Can you come by the house and pretend you're here for a walkthrough as a buyer? Absolutely, she said. I'll bring the paperwork to make it look official. By 3 p.m., the living room was full again. Letty sat beside me. Mr. Drummond stood calmly with his briefcase. And Brooke held a clipboard with papers that looked real because they were Terrence, Wanda, Nola, and Pierce filed in, curious and irritated. What is this? Terrence asked. I wanted to be clear, I said. Standing. Some of you didn't take last night seriously. So here's the next step. I looked at Brooke. She nodded. I'm selling the house, I said. Wanda gasped. You're what I'm selling it. Brooke is the agent. The paperwork is already in motion. You're selling the home we grew up in. Terrence's voice cracked with disbelief. I'm selling my home, I said. The one I paid for. The one I maintained. The one I kept standing, while all of you treated it like a hotel with no checkout date. But where will you go? Nola demanded. I smiled. On a trip. Letty and I are going to Europe. Italy. Maybe France. For the first time in decades, I'm going to live for myself. You're just leaving. Wanda's voice trembled. I'm starting over, I said. With or without your understanding. Mr. Drummond stepped forward. These are formal notices confirming the sale. You still have 30 days to vacate. After that, the house will be under new ownership. You really mean this? Terrence said, looking at me like he was seeing me for the first time. I really do, I replied. Willow slipped into the room, looking worried. Grandma, are we really moving? Yes. Sweetheart. But it's not goodbye. We'll see each other. Just differently. I bent down to hug her, holding back tears. This is something I have to do. No one spoke for a long while. Eventually, they left the room. one by one. I remained, standing next to Letty, heart pounding but light, lighter than I'd felt in years. The war wasn't over, but I had just won the first battle, and I wasn't going back. The morning after the announcement felt different. The air was clearer, the weight on my shoulders a little lighter. I didn't get up to scramble eggs or brew coffee for anyone but myself. I didn't tiptoe around. I didn't check if the juice was stocked or if anyone needed a ride. For once, I sat by the kitchen window with my own mug, watching the sunlight climb over the fence, and just breathed. Letty picked me up around noon, a scarf in her hair and a grin on her face. "You look lighter," she said, as I got in the car. "I feel it," I replied. We drove to the lake. We brought notebooks, pens, and dreams. We sat on a bench like we used to in college. This time, sketching out an itinerary that didn't include anyone's nap schedules or dinner preferences. Rome, Florence, Barcelona, Paris. Letty wanted to sip espresso in Montmartre. I wanted to dip my toes in the Amalfi Coast. When we returned, Willow was sitting on the porch, knees drawn to her chest. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, surprised. "Are you really going?" she asked. I sat beside her. "I am. Mom says you're being selfish." I nodded slowly. Maybe. Or maybe I've been selfless for so long. Everyone forgot I'm a person, too. Willow looked down. "Will I still see you? Of course. I'll send postcards from every city. And when I come back, we'll have sleepovers and bake cookies just like always." She leaned into me. "Quiet? I'm not mad at you," she whispered. Later that week, Terrence came to me. No anger, no yelling, just a tired expression. "I didn't know we made you feel like this. I let it happen," I told him. "But I'm done letting it. We'll be out by the deadline," he said. And he meant it. When the final day came, the house was nearly empty. It echoed again, but not with sadness this time. It echoed with possibility. Pierce handed me an envelope. "From all of us. For your travels. It's not much. But," I smiled, placing my hand over his. "Thank you." Letty and I stood by the car, bags packed. The driveway behind us. The world ahead. "You sure you're ready for this?" she asked. I looked at the road. The open sky. The sun that had waited patiently all these years. I was always ready. I just forgot. And as we drove away, I didn't look back. Not out of bitterness, but because the future was finally brighter than the past. And this time, it was mine.